Hey everyone, how is it going? And welcome to my channel. And for those of you who were wondering where Monday's Zelda is, or today's Zelda is, I think I've changed my mind, and I think I'm only going to do Zeldas, or video games in general, on Sundays. And the rest of the week will be vlog style like this, or, you know, me sitting in front of the camera talking to you guys about stuff. Because as much as I love to play video games, I have never really honestly been a video game channel. I have posted a lot of video game related material, but at the end of the day, I can't honestly say I'm a video game channel. I kind of like having the freedom to do whatever it is that I want to do and not stick to one thing. So I'm going to go back to doing vlog type stuff, talking about air purification systems and all that good stuff, and give you guys a variety show. Oh yeah. So with that said, of course, it's kind of ironic. So I don't know if I posted this on my channel or not before. I think I have, but I'm not 100% sure. But I don't know how long ago it was, but I bought a Raspberry Pi 3B. And I had the intent of using it as a music player. So I downloaded Volumio, or however you pronounce it, Volumio, however you say that, on there. And had the hat for it so it could plug into some RCAs and run into a amplifier so it could go to speakers and I could jam out. You know, it was all good and dandy and everything. I had a few problems here and there because I don't think Volumio was that great of a thing. I should have went with something else. And I still may make another one. I might even try to make one out of a Raspberry Pi Zero or another Raspberry Pi 3, because I'm starting to really like the Raspberry Pis. But, you know, and I took it apart, and then I had this brilliant idea. I was like, woo! So I got my Raspberry Pi out. I downloaded what used to be called Debian, but it's now Raspberry Pi OS. Put it on the Raspberry Pi 3 while I was waiting for my Raspberry Pi 4 gigs to get here. Downloaded it, put it on the Raspberry Pi. I also bought the key, which was actually technically a ripoff, because I spent like $50 on a mouse and keyboard that was Raspberry Pi. And I went to Walmart and bought an ONN mouse and keyboard for like under 20 bucks. And it's like, oh, so guess who paid like, what was it, 50 bucks for a mouse and keyboard, and then also paid 20 bucks because I couldn't wait. And then, yeah, so, and it's wireless. The Raspberry Pi related one is wired, which I don't particularly like, but my Ubuntu computer is wired because, well, I could make it wireless if I wanted to, but since it came with a mouse and keyboard, I prefer wireless. But anyway, even though my gaming keyboard is wired, gee, I keep saying I like wireless, but I have a gaming keyboard that is wired. Anyway, I got the Raspberry Pi 3 Raspberry Pi 3B set up. Started messing around with it. Downloaded recommended software. And while downloading now this is noted that it wasn't in the case. It didn't have heat sinks on it. And it was just sitting on top of a glass thing where my TV is, because I have it plugged into my TV. That way when I'm playing games like Animal Crossing or something and I need to look something up, I just switch over to what used to be cable before I got rid of cable, because I got tired of cable because cable was boring. And I can switch over, look up, what the real paintings of red looks like, and be like, oh, that's what the real painting, and go back and forth, back and forth. You're like, oh, okay. And then that way, because I got one painting that was good, I got a second painting I think was good, and then my third painting, I got the Nook Mile point for being hoodwinked, which is hilarious, because it looked like because I had printed out some of those, but my printer ran out of ink way too fast printing this stuff out. I mean, I don't think the printer is meant to be used for heavy pictures. And it didn't complete, and I was like, dang. And from trying to go from memory, from what I remember from looking at that picture, I was wrong. But at least I got the Nook Miles for being hoodwinked. So, I mean, if you're trying to get them all, you got to get God, at least once. And I think it's actually hilarious, to be honest with you. So, there was that. So now I have that, and then I have the Raspberry Pi 4 with the Raspberry Pi OS, or whatever they call it, sitting at my desk with my other two computers, my Ubuntu and my Windows. And I'm going to use it more than likely for the podcast. I don't know if I'm going to hook the Zoom H4n into the Raspberry Pi and try to download, Audacity onto it, or if I'm going to put the Zoom H4n, which this is what I'm kind of leaning toward. If you have an idea, you can leave it down in the comments. Where was I? Oh yeah, plug the Zoom H4n into the Ubuntu computer, and then have that run Audacity, and then that way it can be getting a backup recording, and then the Zoom can be run to the camcorder, and then I just have clean audio all the way around. Of course, you guys are probably thinking, why don't you just hook the mics into the Zoom H4n and then plug that into the camera and not worry about Audacity? And that's the way I used to roll. And I still may roll that way. I mean, I have 3 mics. One I use for recording my video game videos, and then one that Hot Wheels used when we did the podcast together, which since this COVID-19 stuff, And I have a third one I bought for guest, which may become the mic for Hot Wheels, or I may give my Hot Wheels the one that he had been using, and then give me the new mic. So that's a consideration. I kind of like that consideration, even though technically I'd have to buy another pop filter and all that, because I'm not necessarily set up for that. But hey, But then the question is, since I have this Raspberry Pi 4B with 4 gigs of RAM, and I'm using it for a podcast, other than, whatever on the side, should I have used the Raspberry Pi 3B for this, since it's podcast? Well, I mean, if I'm going to run Audacity in it, and I'd hate for the Pi 3 to be overwhelmed since it only has 1 gig of RAM in it for Audacity. But then again, I don't know. I may also do some editing of the podcast on the, and I know it isn't ideal. And you may be wondering why I don't do it on the Ubuntu commercial. The Ubuntu computer. And the simple reason of that is the Ubuntu computer, I have come to realize that the mem specs for the latest edition of Ubuntu, ironically enough, has something to do with having a dual core. And to the best of my knowledge, the computer that I have Ubuntu put on is a single core. And I know what you're thinking. You're running Ubuntu on a single core? Yes, I am. I'm maxed out and I'm maxed out in RAM. So 4 gigs of RAM is as high as that baby will go. And I think 4 was the mem requirements. Something like that, I don't know. Anyway, I have 4 gigs of RAM in it, single core. I have a video card in it. And I should have probably spent a little bit of extra money and got a little bit better video card for it. But whatever. I don't really do very much for it. It isn't a task-heavy computer because you're trying to get a little task-heavy. And that thing chugged. I mean, when I was trying to download all the recommended software for the Raspberry Pi 3, it flashed a little overheating emblem a bunch of times. Now, I did note that it didn't have heat sinks on it, which it does now because I got a case for it, a different case, because the case that I had for the hat, I could have technically gotten away with using. It would have just been tremendous amount, an absurd amount of space in it and I could have left the hat on, but I didn't want to use the hat. I got a whole new case. I think it was like $6. That came with heat sinks. I got the heat sinks on the things I didn't want heat sinks on because the case that I got for the Raspberry Pi 4 also had the little paddings you put on the certain parts, and then the case itself dissipates the heat. So I got heat sinks on the thing. So now it is officially cooled. It's in a case. And I could probably try to do that again and see if it's still overheated as bad, because it took forever to download. I don't know, forever to download it. That stuff I was just trying to download. I mean, it was like just so slow. But now that it has heat sinks, I should technically try to do that one more time. Or, because when I was trying to use, because I was doing something, I was playing a video on YouTube and something else. I forget what it was. A video on YouTube and something else. And the RAM was halfway, if not a little more, half used. And the processor wasn't even, well, it's a quad core, so it's kind of hard to use up well, it isn't hard, it's possible, but it's more of a challenge on quad cores. So, yeah, it was using up at least half the memory and downloading all that stuff, and that's all I was doing, was downloading stuff. I wasn't running anything in the background, because you try to do that, and woo, daddy, it's like the Ubuntu computer is like just struggling. And So I may have almost pegged the RAM on that thing. Now with 4 gigs of RAM, I'm expecting the 4 to be a little bit more sufficient when it comes to, because I want to download the, well, not all of it, but I want to download a good majority of the recommended software on the Raspberry Pi 4. Just, even though, I mean, it isn't a fair comparison because it has 4 gigs of RAM, so it isn't going to really be a fair comparison, but I still want to see if it will overheat. Which, speaking of overheating, my computer I built, what is it, 6 years ago, I think now, was doing something really odd the other day. It was sitting there and I couldn't get it to do jack. The processing light just kept flashing. And then when I finally got Task Manager opened, it was trying to tell me that the RAM, and I have 8 gigs of RAM in this computer, so I don't know what it was doing, but it was saying that the RAM was pegged at 99%. And I'm like, how do you peg RAM, 8 gigs of RAM, at 99%? I mean, for real. So I don't know what was going on. I haven't ever had that happen before. So I'm kind of curious as to what caused that, because I'm like, what? How? But yeah, and then I turned it off, and then they told me that heat warning, it was overheating. I'm like, what? And I know that, you know, it could be a sensor causing it. And it could be the thermal paste I used 6 years ago, whatever, needs replacing. And it could be that it needs a really good cleaning because it's been a hot minute since I've cleaned it. So it is possible that it needs to be taken outside, thoroughly cleaned, and it might fix it. But then again, I might need to finally put on that heat sink processing fan thing that I showed you guys in a video. Oh, wow, it's probably been a while back now. And I probably need to put that on there, put new thermal paste on there. Even though the CPU is working on the CPU, because I can see the fan rays spinning, because whenever I put the side panel on my computer, it for whatever reason stops working right. It's like there's a short or something somewhere, and it just completely shuts off and refuses to work. And I fixed that one time before, and I tried to do the same thing as I did last time, and I can't figure out what that is. And it's like, damn. So I've been leaving the side panel off, which I know is bad, because it's designed to have a special airflow, blah 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 blah, with a side on it, and it prevents dust from getting in, and blah 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 blah. I realize this. I just can't figure out what's causing it. I mean, other than maybe it needs to be completely took apart, cleaned really, really good, and put back together again. Even though I hate to take the motherboard off that, because the motherboard that I chose for that computer is one of those that has where you have dropped the screws down into the little things, and if you don't do it right, it's hard to get a screwdriver in there to straighten them out and everything, and it just gives you a big old headache unless you have a magnetic screwdriver, which I loaned to Fat Man and haven't got back, and haven't got around to getting another one, so yeah, I probably need to get one of those before I try to do that again. But anyway, so yeah, I got a lot of probably housekeeping to do. The Ubuntu works fine as long as you don't push it too hard. And I don't know, it only cost me $100 for the machine because nobody wanted it. It had Windows Vista on it with 512 RAM, and anybody that's sensible and, you know, PC shopped and researched knows that's not a good deal. And you'd instantly have to upgrade it. But I bought it because they was trying to sell it for like 300 bones, and I got it for 100 bones, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take that because it could be my project PC. And, you know, I try to make a server off of it because I've made videos on that. And, yeah. Well, I maxed out the RAM, put a cheap Mema Gemma video card in it. What else did I do to that sucker? Oh, I got a I think it's 500 gigabyte SSD drive that I put in it. And then took the is it 160, 150? I think it was 160. And used it as a storage device. I know. I probably should have done it the reverse. I even think I tried to put two 500 gigs SSDs in it. For whatever reason, it didn't like that second SSD. I don't know what it was. It just did not like that second SSD. It was like, nope, ain't taking it. And not working with this. So that's why I had to put the 160 in, because it seemed to like the 160. I don't know. I don't know if it doesn't have enough power to run two SSDs, even though it has two SATA. So you would think that, of course, like when that computer was new, it only maybe had like 160s. I don't know. But it didn't like it. So I don't know. So I had to do some whatever, and then I finally got it to work. So I'm just using it as my Learn Linux Ubuntu PC, where I just basically explore all that goodness. And now I have the Raspberry Pis. Now I'm thinking about getting another Raspberry Pi, and you're probably like, Twister. But I have a camera coming in, and I can't decide if I want to try play with that camera on the. I think I'm going to play with the camera on the Pi 4. But I may get another Pi, like a Pi 3, since they're cheaper, because that's $60 or whatever for a Pi 4. I don't know if I want to make a security camera out of that or not, because that to me seems like a lot of money just to make a security camera when you can get a Pi 3 for $35. And sure, it only has a gig of RAM. But how much RAM does a security camera really need? Especially when you're not going to... Well, I mean, I did get the Ubuntu computer to SSH or MPC, whatever that was, and to the Raspberry Pi 3 sitting at the TV that I use for the video game lookup and everything. So there's that, but I think that's more on the processor than on the RAM. I could be wrong. I would like to experiment with this to find out if I am, because I did buy a GPS modular and plugged it into the Pi 3, and after following some directions and still having issues, because for whatever reason, whenever I try to do something, whether it's Vim or one of the other text editing whatever, I always have issues. I can't ever get it to work right. I have to try like a million different things, the same thing over, before it actually be like, oh, okay. I mean, I literally tried to edit this thing to make the USB modular work. Alright. I rebooted the Pi like 4 times, I think. And it finally worked. Because I couldn't get GPS Mon to work for nothing. I finally got it to work after like rebooting the thing 4 times. And it was like, oh, okay, you want to do this? Okay. And I got it to work. I put in GPS Mon. And it showed the coordinates. And it was between 240 and 500 feet from my actual location. So it isn't spot on. But it was close enough. I can live with it. So my original intent with the GPS unit was to put it on a Pi, like a Pi 3. Somehow hook it to a book bag in a case. Run the GPS onto the shoulder strap of the thing. And record walks. Basically GPS my walk. And my other thought was to have a Fitbit run off of it. And then, of course, I also was curious about making Google Maps, Google Earth. Because Google Earth is the one that actually said it was like 500 feet from my actual position. Google Maps was like 240. And I'm like, how does that work? So I was thinking about that, and then having, you know, like my old Droid phone that we're in now for Straight Talk, you know, be the controller for the Pi, and all that good stuff. And then when I tried to Bluetooth into the Pi, it told me, oh, there's no software on this phone that we can use. I tried to plug in a USB cord, and then it just wanted to use it as a storage device. It didn't want to do anything else. And it's like, what? So I got to figure that out. I would like to actually get another Pi, or use the Pi at the thing, because it's closest to the window that can actually pick up GPS. And figure this all out and get it to work. I know there's probably a bunch of videos on YouTube that will tell you how to do all this stuff. But I would like to get it to work, because I would like to put it on and then have the camera that I'm getting in today. That's supposed to be an IR camera, so it's supposed to be able to see good in the dark. And go for a walk and videotape it. I don't know if the Pi can handle doing both. But it would actually be kind of a fun experiment, I think. To see if the Pi could literally handle GPS coordinates, sending it to a phone, whether it's Bluetoothed or tethered by USB. And that way I can see where I'm going and control the Pi and see, you know, and not only be able to be like, okay, so this is where I am, and then flip over and see how the video feed is doing. That is what I like to do. That is the experiment I would like to try to get done by the end of 2020. Literally, that is one of my things. That and a security camera, which I would like to experiment with on the Pi. I mean, a Pi 3. Because, I mean, it sounds like fun. Sounds like right up my alley, in fact. The problem I run into is command line. I haven't used it in a long time and was never 100% proficient at it, because I'm not really good at programming and all this. So I'm going to have to learn, I'm probably going to have to learn Python. I'm probably going to have to learn command line stuff just to get all this to work. But hey, it's a good year to try it, right? I mean, I got the Pi 4, and the Pi comes with like Python and something else as recommended software. So, you know, I could have a little bit of fun with it. I mean, where could it hurt? I know that was a bunch of rambling, but I just wanted to, you know, talk to you guys and tell you how I'm going to play this 3 times a week. Try to do a video 3 times a week, upload it, so that you guys can laugh at yours truly. Have a video game on Sunday. The podcast will probably also go up Sunday. And I may render it on the Raspberry Pi 4 to see how that goes. I just need to find out what software will do that. And I don't expect it to be, you know, Grundles, because that's what the Windows computer, you know, well, the Windows computer was really built for a gaming machine, but it's a video editing rig, so if the Pi can't handle it, that can. So that's my goal. And yeah. So if you guys haven't already, please subscribe, like this video if you like it. If not, you know what to do. Leave comments down below telling me if I'm crazy, or you know, some good ways to get around doing all this stuff, because I seriously want to do the GPS and the camera and the security camera and all that stuff, because I think it would be really cool. And yeah, I think I've rambled long enough. So I'll see you guys next time.